So do you want to get into cybersecurity and you're just overwhelmed about where to start? Maybe you're already in tech and you want to move into cyber. Maybe you're not in tech at all. Maybe you're in a different career altogether and you want to move into cyber. But there's just so many options. Like, where do I actually start? What's a SOC? You got these things called blue teams, red teams. You got penetration testers. You got good hackers, bad hackers, all these certificates, different salaries, different roles. What's what? Hey, we're going to talk about that in this video. We're going to give you a little bit of an idea about the different roles, the different skill sets that cybersecurity people have, and all the different hats that they can wear. And then at the very end of the video, we're going to give you a little bit of a crash course, steps, right? How can you get started? And then how you can sort of progress, right? So just stay till the very end till we do that. I mean, cybersecurity is like the best. Like, honestly, it's probably the career in technology that is growing faster than any other industry in the world. Every company, to some extent, is going to need somebody that looks after their security, their cybersecurity. Bad people are trying to get in all the time. So being in cybersecurity is like super exciting, and it keeps you on your toes, right? It's not like going to job, right? And then knowing what you're going to be doing, because it could, like, anything could happen. And then you coming in to save the day. Hey, before we do get into this, my name is Emilio. I love tech. I've worked in tech for a long time and I absolutely love it. Hey, we talk about tech in this channel, so remember to click on that subscription button, click on the bell so that you don't miss out on anything. So what are some of the core domains that cybersecurity people sort of fall into? Well, the first, we're going to talk about what's called the blue team. The blue team, these people are defense people. The role of a blue team person, somebody who is part of the cybersecurity blue team, is responsible for protecting a network, protecting systems, protecting data, defending all of that stuff from the bad people. So they're going to be preventing, they're going to be detecting, and then they're going to be responding. When they detect stuff, they want to go and figure out what happened, prevent it from getting further, from spreading further, making sure that the right systems, the right processes, the right endpoint protection software is being used, the right software is being used to be able to detect and then remove some of that bad stuff. So these are your security analysts, your security engineers, your SOC people. SOC stands for Security Operations Center. And these are people that are just trained to defend. So they're going to be dealing with things such as firewalls, with IDSs or IPSs, intrusion detection and intrusion prevention systems. Firewalls, as I said, super important, making sure that the firewalls are configured, set up correctly, that only the right traffic is allowed into a network, that the firewall and the network traffic is segregated, that there's proper, subnetting and VLANing being used to make it as difficult as possible. They may also wear the architecture hat, where they are now setting up how the network architecture is set up, so that they can make sure that if somebody or something should come into a network, it's very, very hard for that piece of, let's say, malware, ransomware, to be able to propagate itself across the network. Because the worst thing that could happen is if what's called a flat network, where all of the computers, the servers, the printers, they're all on the same sort of network. They're all on 192.168.1.1 network, right? They're all on the same network. So then something comes in and there's nothing stopping this from spreading to all the other devices, because they're all in the same network, in the same subnet. So then some of these people are responsible for making sure that they are segregating their network into different chunks, into different VLANs, to make it a lot harder, so that if something gets attacked, it's only going to attack one section. It's going to be very hard for it to go to another spot, because there's a firewall, there's a router, there's something in between that is protecting that access. And then you've got the red team, and these are the people who are the attackers, right? The other guys are defending, these people are now attacking. These are the ones who are now looking for those vulnerabilities. They're not only just defending, and that's important, and I think every red team person should probably be defending to some extent, but their purpose is to see how they can get in. So what's an example of this? Is a penetration tester. Penetration testers are awesome, and these are really, really good careers to get into. And they're essentially, they're sort of like ethical hackers. This is somebody who is paid to try to infect a system, to infect a network. And they actually get paid to come into a company. Sometimes there are bounties where, a very, very large company that releases some software will say, hey, here's $10,000 to whoever can break in to this system. Whoever can find this vulnerability, they're called 0 days, like something that has not been identified. There's no vulnerability existing yet. You need to find it. And if you find it, and if you manage to get in as an ethical hacker, ethical meaning that you're not a bad hacker, you've got some form of ethics, okay? And then if they get in and they're successful, they get paid. And that's essentially what the bounties are all about. But then the penetration tester could actually be hired by a business. And I say, all right, penetration tester, I want you to find out what is vulnerable on my network. What is actually open, right? And I may give them some tasks. I say, look, I've got my websites. Try to attack my websites from outside on the internet. Try to attack my websites from inside of my network. I may say, hey, look, you're coming into my network and I want you to see if you can elevate your privileges to become a domain administrator or a global admin in my Microsoft 365 environment. I'm going to give them some basic credentials, but let's see if they can elevate their own privileges. Let's see if they can get into systems, into networks that they shouldn't have access to. Now, a tool that is really, really helpful, especially if you want to know more about the ethical hacking perspective, the penetration testing and all of the tools and things like this, is to install a tool called, or an operating system called Kali Linux, K-A-L-I Linux. This is a piece of software, an operating system, fully fledged Linux that has a whole bunch of tools that are like the toolbox that every single ethical hacker needs to have. So completely for free as well. Now there are a couple of the technical roles, the blue and the red teams, right? We'll go back to some of the other technical roles a little bit later on in the video, but now I'm going to talk to you about the GRC. This is the governance, risks, the committees, the compliance, all of these sort of things. This is the group of governance people, essentially the rules, the people who are putting in the rules into a company to say, yes, this company is compliant with all of these cybersecurity frameworks, right? Pretty important. NIST, N-I-S-T. You've got, in Australia, I've got the Essential 8 model. I've got the ISO 27001 standard, the PCI compliance, the PCI DSS. These are all things that companies strive to achieve. If they achieve that, the fact that they are an ISO 27001 certified, that's great, because to be able to achieve ISO 27001 is pretty dang hard. It is hard to get to it because there's so many rules, right? And if you're a cybersecurity person in a company that has been tasked with making sure that the business is ISO 27001, get ready, because you're going to be in a roller coaster ride. Because you're going to have to work together with systems people, with networking people, with storage people, with application people, because there's all of these things, all of these checks that somebody needs to do to make sure that a company is fully compliant, to make sure that the network is as strong as possible. Now then you've got like all your generalists that are all around the security space. These are your standard server security people, your network security people, your security analysts, your security engineers. And these are people in a company that are sort of like the blue team, right? They don't have that task only, but they also could have elements of the red team as well. But they're now people in a business who are now responsible and given the responsibilities to make sure that those systems are secure. So for example, let's say you're a systems administrator. A systems administrator is going to be looking after servers. They're going to be looking after, storage, SAN, NAS. They're going to be doing patching. They're going to be doing, virtualization, cloud stuff, all of that, right? They're responsible for building the servers, for making sure all of that stuff is looking good. But then they need to make sure that all of that stuff is secure. So sometimes a systems administrator may have to do the security part as well, or they could partner with a security person who knows the security of servers, who understands, VMware, they understand Proxmox, they understand Citrix, and then they are responsible for making sure that those systems are secure. All right, so they're embedded in a company. So that could be like a systems security person. That could be then the networking people, the people who are now working together with networking engineers who are making sure that the firewalls, that the routers, that the subnets, the VLANing, the segregation is all done, similar to what I spoke about at the very top. Cloud security people responsible for the same sort of stuff in the cloud to make sure that the AWS, Microsoft Azure, I don't know how you say it, let me know which one it is, Google, all of that, right? They're now cloud security people, right? And they're sort of the main categories where you're going to find security people that are in those roles. Then there could be security people that are just responsible for all of those. And then you've also got the DevSecOps people, which sort of fall into this same category. Dev, which means developer, sec, security and ops operations. These are now people who are developers, with security experience, and they understand the day-to-day operations of BAU and administration, sort of like a morphing, gelling, a mixing of all of these traditional roles. Well, back in the day, there was just developers, and there was just security people, and there was just operations people. But now you sort of have this nice little infinity, little eternity logo thing where all of these roles are now all together. Dev, Sec, Op, engineers. Then you've got the bad guys. We're not going to talk about the bad hackers, but there's lots of them out there. You may actually work with some hackers thing. I've worked with them in the past as well, where I didn't even know that they had a second life and they were doing some shifty stuff behind the scenes, but we don't want to talk about them. But we want to make sure that we are protecting our network systems. And it's funny, there's so many stories of people who black hat hackers, and then you got white hat, then you got gray. And there's sort of all these three little shades. Whites are the good guys, blacks are the bad guys or girls, and then gray are sort of the ones in the middle. But a lot of these the black hat people are going to be, I guess, there's ethical dilemmas, because in their mind they often have good reasons for what they do. They see it as a good cause for what they do, and in some cases that may be accurate. In other cases, more often not. But there's so many cases of people who were black hackers, and this is a crazy statistic. The amount of times where black hackers have gone in, or they've done a shifty where they've tried to log in, or they hack into a system that they shouldn't have had access to, and then that company goes, man, they found this massive vulnerability in our network, I'm going to hire them, and then they get hired. That could happen too. Pretty crazy world. Now, what sort of certs should you be looking at right here? I mean, you may have gone off, you may have studied at university, at college, but then it's also good if you want to specialize in security to get certified in certain things. So some of the common certs out here are going to be your CompTIA securities, your CISSP, your GCIH, etc. And these are all sort of blue team related. Then you've got the red team certs, and these are, of course, are the attacking ones. The CEH, you've got the OSCP, you've got the PNPT, and there's a whole bunch more. On the governance side of things, you've got Security Plus, you've got ITIL. ITIL is also helpful from a service desk perspective if you just wanted to do day-to-day operations from a ticketing perspective, but it can be really, really good as well. ISO 27001, as I said. The CISM, the CISM, is one that is really good. This is the manager, I guess, from the security perspective. Then you got all the cloud securities. This is where you've got now specific around the Azure. You've got AWS security specs. You've got Google certifications, and there's a whole bunch more. But if you're looking at one just to sort of get you started, a good one is the Security Plus certification, and also the Ethical Hacking certification. Are sort of two good ones that will just give you a good enough framework and understanding around cybersecurity. But you know what? If you want to be a great cybersecurity expert, having understanding around systems and network is also going to be a good thing. So going and looking into the server side, the Microsoft, looking at the networking, Cisco, FortiGates, Fortinets, the Palo Altos, all of those sort of certs will all essentially complement your cybersecurity learnings. All right, so how do you get started? First and foremost, get yourself a home lab built at home. Get yourself some old computers, wipe away the operating system. You don't have to, you can still stick with Windows, but I recommend wiping away the operating system, start installing Linux on there and start learning stuff. I mentioned Kali Linux, play around with pfSense as well. pfSense is a free open source firewall/proxy. Look at ElkStack, look at Snort, and then test your blue and your red team skills in those platforms in your own home lab that is isolated, of course. Don't have it as part of your main network, because then you could cause havoc to the rest of your network. Starting off as a help desk person is always good. Being a systems administrator or network administrator is also good. And then try to get yourself more into the security space. But definitely starting off as a security analyst is pretty helpful. Going maybe into a cybersecurity business, into a SOC itself, and saying, hey, I want to work in there. That way you are managing security for lots and lots of clients that have got different setups, and then you're going to be on the cutting edge of security attacks and threats that are happening in real time. You're going to learn a lot very quickly. A great option here could be where you go and actually do a security audit in a company. Go and say, hey, I want to go and check all of your security stance against your business, maybe against the ISO 27001. At the end of that, you then write them a nice big old paper to say you are adherent to these, you are not hitting all of these, and this is the plan and practice that you need to put in place to make sure that you are secure And then after that, you can work for yourself because there's big bucks there, or then you can go try get yourself the CISO role as well. Hopefully your brain is not exploding from too much information, but ultimately the best way to learn is to try this yourself. Have a good learning attitude, stay up to date, listen to podcasts, Darknet Diaries, I love that one. I love cybersecurity headlines to sort of keep up to date with what's happening in cybersecurity. Learn, stay in it, you'll get there. And that's it. Thanks so much for tuning in. Do the subscription thing, click on the button, as well as the little thumbs up if you like this video, and we will see you on the next video. Thanks again. Talk to you then.